I've officially signed as an MMA fighter to the fastest growing sports league in the world. The PFL, baby.
Boxing experts are in uproar after Jake Paul announced his departure from the sport. His reputation, already shaky after a series of glorified scripted fights, has hit rock bottom. With sponsors now steering clear, Jake's credibility is in freefall. So what does a man with no credibility and a thirst for money do? Switch to MMA, of course. Why stay in a sport where skill is required when he can join the Professional Fighters League?
I've already disrupted boxing, and now it's time to disrupt MMA. I know this is such a tough sport, and it's not going to be easy.
PFL, a league still finding its footing and cash in on lower standards. Jake's plan is simple: ride the MMA wave, rake in a fat paycheck, and milk the hype, even at the expense of a sport that's still growing. Critics argue Jake's move isn't about proving himself, but about exploiting an...
And not to mention that these champions get $1 million when they win. Join the PFL, baby.
Let's talk about that May 2023 fight for a second.
Prioritizing profit
it was a
over
split
passion,
decision,
leaving
but
fans
honestly,
and
still
experts
clinging to his
unimpressed.
delusions like their championship
Jake
belts.
Paul's move to MMA under the Professional Fighters...
I talked to Nikisa an hour ago.
The
point is, yeah, I talked to Nikisa an hour ago. Two things are happening. Jake is super successful in boxing. Whether you love Jake or hate Jake, we can all agree that guy's the man when it comes to generating attention and revenue and viewership with his boxing career. And it's more successful than it was when we signed him on the boxing side. That has delayed MMA. That's delayed MMA because he's killing it on the boxing side. So will MMA happen with PFL? Yes, it will. Has it been delayed? Yes, it has. My guess is fall of this year, but I don't think it's going to be before then. He's got so many things going on in boxing.
Yeah, it's kind of what they told us as well. We did a little round table with him last month, and Nikisa and Amanda in Orlando, and he was basically like, listen, I got a box. So it could be maybe later this year, maybe 2026, but he's planning on doing it. At least that's
he's
what
good. Look, he's going to do it. And by the way, every time you've asked me or Nikisa or Jake, we've probably given similar answers without coordinating. We thought for sure it was 2024 fall.
Fighters League PFL makes sense for one reason: money. The PFL reportedly offered him a multi-million-dollar deal, not because of his fighting skills, but because of his massive social media following. Even PFL founder Don Davis essentially admitted Jake's primary value is as a walking billboard. Forget about being a serious fighter. Jake's real job is to attract viewers, not victories. The irony is impossible to ignore when even the league signing him seems more excited about his buzz-generating abilities than his actual potential in the cage. Boxing experts are tearing...
League, baby! And not only am I an MMA fighter now officially signed to an organization, but I am also a co-founder of the new PFL pay-per-view super fight division.
...him apart, and rightfully so. They're asking the obvious question: is Jake leaving because he can't cut it in boxing? The answer is as clear as his lack of proper footwork: absolutely. In boxing, respect is earned by climbing the ranks and proving yourself against top-tier opponents.
This league is absolutely the most lit thing in the world! All right, I need to calm down. But seriously, I'm excited.
Jake, however, has always been more interested in playing the role of a fighter than embracing the reality of it. MMA, with its lower expectations for crossover stars, offers Jake the perfect playground to continue pretending he's a serious athlete. It's yet another calculated move to avoid real competition while cashing in on his fame. Classic.
I'm going to use my platform to market PFL fighters and introduce them to my fans worldwide. I personally will be deeply involved in making sure that the PFL is the best place in the world for fighters.
Jake Paul. Jake Paul is taking his circus to MMA under the PFL banner, proving once again that he's more businessman than fighter. This move isn't driven by athletic ambition. It's about padding his bank account. Jake reportedly earns over $30 million a year from his ventures, but it's hard to
If that's not balls, then I don't know what.
respect someone who treats combat sports like a personal piggy bank. Boxing experts have nailed it. Jake Paul prioritizes profit over challenge, and they're absolutely right. Every decision he makes is calculated to maximize earnings, not to test his limits.
And I'm taking this seriously, okay? Yes, I still want to become a world champion in boxing.
Even the PFL knows exactly what they've signed up for. Founder Don Davis called Jake a marketing genius, which is a polite way of admitting they hired him for clout, not talent. And honestly, they're not wrong. Jake's move to MMA has nothing to do with proving himself. It's about milking his social media fame for every dollar it's worth. Then there's the timeline.
Whether you love Jake or hate Jake, we can all agree that guy's the man when it comes to generating attention and revenue and viewership.
His MMA debut was originally set for 2024, but has now been delayed. Jake claims it's due to boxing commitments, but the reality is clear. There's nothing on his schedule except avoiding real competition and keeping his ego intact. Jake Paul's MMA debut was originally set for 2024, but has now been pushed to late 2025. Jake claims it's due to boxing commitments, but let's be real, there's nothing on his schedule except dodging ranked opponents.
When we signed him, on the boxing side, that has delayed MMA. That's delayed MMA. So will MMA happen with PFL? Yes, it will. Has it been delayed? Yes, it has. My guess is fall of this year.
Opponents and protecting his ego. Critics see it for what it is. Jake Paul running from the mounting pressure in boxing and seeking refuge in a sport with lower expectations. Let's break it down. Jake has been parading around as the savior of boxing, yet most of his opponents had no business stepping into the ring. Tyron Woodley, a retired UFC fighter with zero boxing credentials. Ben Askren, a wrestler who couldn't outbox a toddler. Nate Robinson, a basketball player, not a boxer. And his one real boxing match, Tommy Fury in 2023, where Jake stepped into the ring with someone who actually knew what they were doing and got exposed. Fans haven't forgotten either, mocking him for leaving boxing without ever truly fighting a real boxer. Jake Paul's MMA debut isn't happening until fall 2025, giving him nearly 2 years to prepare. But in Jake's world, that likely means filming hype videos and launching a new line of merch, not serious training. As for the delay, Jake claims it's due to his ongoing boxing commitments. Commitments to what? Losing another fight? Experts aren't buying it. They see the real reason. Jake is running from the mounting pressure to face legitimate boxers. MMA offers him an escape hatch, a place where he can play the new guy card while avoiding real accountability. It's a classic Jake Paul move, sidestepping genuine challenges in favor of a carefully curated image. His entire boxing career has felt like a bad prank.
Advisor Nikisa Bedarian is also joining as a co-founder of this new division for the PFL, and I'm pointing him the head of making everyone money.
It went on far too long. For years, Jake has dodged real competition with the precision of someone cherry-picking opponents, like he's searching for the perfect avocado. Canelo Alvarez. Forget it. A rematch with Tommy Fury. Not happening. Instead, Jake has built a career fighting retired athletes and non-boxers, leaning on his marketing prowess.
But it matters. The opponent matters. Right? The opponent always matters. Jake is brilliant at picking opponents. So, of course it matters who the name and the opponent is.
Rather than his skills in the ring. Now he's bringing the same tired act to MMA, hoping a new audience will buy into his self-created hype. Jake Paul loves to talk a big game, but his actions tell a different story. Instead of stepping up to fight real boxers, he handpicks opponents he knows he can beat, or at least ones who won't embarrass him too badly. And yet, the guy never stops running his mouth. The irony? The only thing louder than Jake's trash talk is the sound of him running away from actual challenges. He disrupted boxing by being the first boxer to almost never box a real boxer. Now he's poised to disrupt MMA by becoming the first fighter to face only retired football players. Boxing experts have had a field day roasting him, dubbing his career as one defined by dodging anyone with real credentials.
This means the best fighters fight the best fighters every single year, which is better for you. I'm bringing you the best fight.
Jake loves to act like he's revolutionizing combat sports, but his actions scream cowardice louder than his YouTube thumbnails scream clickbait. No wonder he's ditching boxing for MMA. It's easier to rewrite the narrative in a different sport than face the brutal truth. Jake Paul isn't built for real boxing. Compare him to actual fighters like Floyd Mayweather or Manny Pacquiao, who were battling ranked opponents as teenagers. Meanwhile, Jake's career highlights include fighting retired athletes, basketball players, and MMA stars who couldn't throw a proper jab. It's no surprise the boxing world calls him a social media boxer. His career isn't about the grind, the sweat, or the glory. It's about cashing checks and posting highlight reels. Jake Paul isn't the savior of boxing, he's its punchline. He's built a brand on dodging challenges and
like, man, yeah, them dudes just using their YouTube status to come in boxing and make all this money.
Selling hype, and now he's bringing the same tired act to MMA. The numbers may be big, but the respect, non-existent. Jake Paul loves to throw around big numbers. $5 million in pay-per-view sales in 2023 sounds impressive, right? But when you dig deeper, it's all smoke and mirrors. It's not the sport that's drawing the crowds, it's the circus. People aren't buying tickets to watch a legitimate fighter. They're buying tickets to see Jake's ego get punched in the face. After all that money and all those headlines, Jake has never faced a ranked professional boxer. Not one, zero. The second boxing started demanding legitimacy, Jake packed his bags and switched.
You are a YouTuber. You ain't a boxer, mate. This guy never took a punch. He's never took one serious punch. Here's what he's took off Anderson Silva. And he's done this. What is that?
To MMA. Coincidence? Hardly. If there's one fight that exposed the illusion, it was his loss to Tommy Fury. That was a public unmasking. Fury exposed every flaw in Jake's game, from his sloppy footwork to his wild, uncontrolled punches. Jake looked like an amateur pretending to be a pro. And let's not forget, Tommy Fury isn't even a top-tier boxer. He's a decent fighter, sure, but not a world champion. Even that was enough to expose Jake for what he is. Experts didn't hold back, calling his career a house of cards built on weak opponents and YouTube fame. For someone who claims to be changing the game, Jake's version of boxing looks more like a comedy skit than a revolution. The real tragedy here isn't just Jake.
Watching Netflix on Friday night, Jake Paul, Mike Tyson?
Yes, I was. But what did I make of it? I think commercially and a business sense, thought it was absolutely fantastic. Both men made a ton of money. So best luck to them. Congratulations. As far as the boxing fight, it wasn't a fight. It was a tip and tap. Don't hit me, I won't hit you. Circle the ring a little bit. Make it look good. That's all it was. So I don't really make too much of it.
Paul, it's what he's doing to boxing by turning the sport into his personal reality show. With every headline he generates, he chips away at the integrity of a sport built on grit, discipline, and respect. Fans are fed up, and experts are right. Jake Paul isn't leaving boxing. He's leaving the spotlight of real challenges. That's the legacy he's leaving behind. Clickbait fights, overhyped pay-per-views, and a sport worse off for entertaining his antics.